Welcome, welcome, Superpower Alliance. I am so thrilled for this conversation. We have Dr. Marni Feuerman with us, and she is going to talk to us about content marketing. And so we're going to define that. We're going to really kind of get like very detailed about it. I actually am like ready to go to take notes because this is something that's super interesting to me. And I feel like an area of growth. I can't wait to learn from you, Marni, but I just wanted to first say welcome, Dr. Marni Feuerman. Marni is a certified EFT therapist and supervisor, and she has a practice in Boca Raton, which is in South Florida. Marni, yay, I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah.
Talking about a great topic. So, and thank you for doing this and for, helping practitioners run their businesses. So it's great.
Yeah, no, it's really been fun for me. And I've also really heard of what a need that it's meeting, because obviously we don't learn this and we didn't go to business school, right? I mean, maybe some of us did, but we actually went to school to be a therapist. And so to actually have a successful practice from a business perspective takes a little bit of, I don't know, like trial and error, or some people have learned more than others. Before we get into it, I want to ask you the first question I ask everybody, which is, how would you describe your superpower? And for the listeners out there that haven't heard this question, this is not the shiny skill, the thing that, you're putting at the top of your resume. What this is something that maybe you used to see as like a weakness or something that you weren't proud of, but after embracing it, you've learned it actually helps you either as a therapist or as a business owner. But how would you answer that question?
Yeah, I love and hate that question at the same time, Kelly. So I thought a lot about that because I knew I had to answer this, and I'm going to be very transparent. So I really was very bad at choosing partners. And I made a lot of mistakes, and I had a lot of stuff from, my early years, as a lot of people do. And I, figured it out. I did a lot of work. I certainly got into this field. And which I know a lot of people end up getting into because they are searching for answers for themselves. So maybe a little bit of that, but I did have a passion for psychology and this profession. And so I finally figured it out. And I, feel like I have a, great marriage, a very healthy relationship with my husband. We've been married over 20 years. And I have used a lot of myself and what I've learned, and I know how I felt and what happened to me. And I feel like I help a lot of people in this situation when they keep repeating negative relationship patterns. And eventually I even ended up writing a self-help book on the topic. And I feel like it's become a superpower because of that. So I've used it to help people. And I think that's been great that I've been able to transform that. So
I love, well, I appreciate first your transparency. That is meaningful to me. And I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was, that book, what happened to you?
yeah.
Oprah and Dr. Perry. And he talks about post-traumatic wisdom.
Yeah,
Like
I love that phrase. Yeah,
that's what you're talking about. Like, this was obviously difficult, and now it's the resiliency and how it's like giving back in a way. Can you remind me the name of that book? Because I know you've written a book, and what's the name?
Yeah, it's called Ghosted and Breadcrumbs, Stop Falling for Unavailable Men and Get Smart About Healthy Relationships. So as the title, like, I was choosing a lot of unavailable people and trying hard to make that work. So I certainly have a lot of compassion, and It's geared towards women, but I think anyone could certainly benefit from the concepts in it, you know, as people have given me feedback about it. So some of my stories and vignettes are actually in there. I don't identify myself as them, and a lot of them are my clients' stories in there, because I wanted to not just go through some of the concepts, but I wanted people to be able to relate that, hey, there's other people who go through this, and you can figure this out, and you can make changes, and you can have a great relationship. So, yeah, so that's the book. It's got a little bit of a interesting title.
I remember the breadcrumbs, and
Yes, breadcrumbing.
that's part of your strategy, is really compelling titles. But that's kind of like,
yes.
right. That's, I mean, it's just, all of this is so
You need
interesting.
something attention grabbing. Yes, exactly.
Yes. And I did remember it. And that's something else I wanted to say before we get into kind of the nitty gritty, is I knew you before I knew you. So you were you're everywhere, right? It's like you've got articles and
Yes.
And just, I don't know, if that's something that I think.
Right. I know exactly what you're saying, and that's what happens. And that's what we're going to certainly talk about today, is how to make that happen, and why it's good, why it's important.
Yes, you're the perfect person to be talking about this. So tell us, you know, for the someone who, let's say they know nothing, okay? Like when you say content marketing, I don't know what that means. How would you describe content marketing? Are we just talking about blogs, or what's sort of the breadth of that?
Sure. So just to define it quickly here, it's a marketing approach that's focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract an audience, attract a client, attract people to you, but ultimately it leads to profit. It leads to people paying you for your services or whatever it is you might be selling, if it's something that someone's selling, which could even be e-courses, books, videos, whatever it is. So even though the word is content, which I know people usually think about writing or words, it is probably, you know, a huge portion is that. And so most of that would be blogging or articles, but content is also used when you're creating videos, podcasts, e-courses. So it may not be as structured as an article or a blog, but like I'm sure what you do, like when you created either your course or even something like what we're doing now, you're creating an outline. So those are words, that's content. So you have, you know what you're going to talk about, but you might be doing more off the cuff talking. But with an article or a blog, yes, that's certainly like very clearly defined as writing. You know, you're writing something. But the content piece is focused on your specialty, your niche, you know, the kind of person that you're wanting to attract to your business, the kind of person that you want to work with. The other piece of it is, through that content, you start to be viewed as knowledgeable, as a trusted source, as an expert. It can set you apart from the competition. Depending on where you are, like in South Florida, it's a pretty saturated area. So what's going to set you apart from your competition? And I say that in a very friendly way, because I'm super collaborative, and I don't necessarily look at other couples therapists as like competition. It's better to be, collaborative. But if some person is searching online for marriage therapy or couples therapy, what's going to draw them to you as opposed to the 20 other therapists that are showing up? So it's something that really sets you apart. And so the best piece of it, of course, is that you can show up in what's called organic search. And that I just want to distinguish that from paid search. So like when you go onto Google and you are searching, let's say I put in couples therapy near me or something like that. And you'll see people come up, and a lot of times it will say an ad. Like, so these are people that have paid Google to come up on the top of the page. But underneath that, you'll start to see who's coming up organically, which I think has much more power to it, because I don't know about you, people are getting pretty savvy, right? A lot of times they're skipping over, like I skip over the ads.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if someone has to pay, to be put on there. And so it just feels more special or meaningful if like someone's coming up automatically, that maybe they must really know what they're doing and be really relevant to what I'm looking for. And so through content, you start to come up organically on Google. And of course, it's connected to a bunch of other things. I know we're gonna, talk about website and things like that. But I would say in a nutshell, that's what content marketing is. It's just a marketing strategy, but it's based on using content and topics and writing
Yeah.
to attract people to your
And
business.
just by defining it, I feel like you've given us a wealth of information, really, because it's so helpful to think about. It's not just writing, and also it sounds like it's the more focused and the more specific,
Mhm.
that your message is to your sort of target audience or ideal client, the better, and relevancy. So it tells me, don't be afraid to be really niche, and
Mhm.
be very like strategic about, you know, making that known so that you are set apart from maybe just a general couples therapist, so for EFTers, that would be, this is the model that I'm using. And there's plenty of people who are looking specifically for that. So really making that clear. I love that. So for you,
Mhm.
because you've done this so well, and I think you told me at a training, I have paid $0 to get to the top of the SEOs, to optimize SEO and to be at the top of searches. And that, of course, was like, okay, how did she,
Right.
how long did it take? And so for you
Great question too.
specifically, because I know that, I think you organically, I don't know, maybe you did like take a class or go to school for this, but how did this evolve, and what is your specific strategy? Like, do you have a marketing plan that you really just churn out year after year? I love to kind of hear you. Yeah, just kind of let
For
me
the
know.
overview of like how I did this, and
Yeah. And
yeah, so
maybe you learn the hard way.
yeah. Well, first of all, when I first started doing it, you do feel like you're putting in a ton of time and effort and you don't really know if it's going to pay off, because I made that comment to you and it's almost hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
Like, really? But it is true, because I'm proof that it's true. And it just makes a lot of logical sense. So I'll kind of start out by saying, like, I know a lot of therapists, and certainly everybody's got a choice in how they want to run their business. But if they're paying, let's say, some are paying like $400, $500 a month to Google for Google AdWords, right? To show up at the top, and, the way I just explained. So, but if you knew that, and they have to pay forever, right? So as soon as they stop paying the ads, they're off, and they're on page 6 or 10 or whatever, right? So they're gone. But if you could write 1 or 2 articles a month that of course are very, focused and topic driven, and you're putting in that time, which I know time is money, but let's say you're spending, and at first when you do it, it takes a lot more time. So I could, I might have been churning out a blog that took me 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours to write, but now is taking me maybe 1 to 2 hours to write, just because of getting used to it and developing that muscle and, practicing it. But at first, yeah, it's a long game plan. And you're not going to see results instantly or right away, but eventually it does happen. So you write consistently, let's say 1 to 2 blogs a month, and then you start Google starts to index what you're writing, and you start showing up, at the top of search, and it's pretty much forever. So you didn't pay anything, but yes, you spent some time, and maybe, it equaled about, a couple $100 of your time. But you put it up there, it lives forever, and you get paid back in dividends because you're showing up organically and it doesn't go away. So there's nobody you're paying, and your stuff is there forever. So it just made a ton of logical sense. So my strategy was just to be really consistent and to write, I would say, one blog at a minimum, but probably two. So let's say every other week, you've set it up. Most websites, almost every website has a blog that you can upload to it, whether, more complicated website is like WordPress, but there's, Wix or Squarespace or whatever it is. They all have blogs. And I was just writing, and we'll talk a little bit about keywords and keyword research, but the truth is, that might sound difficult. It's not as hard as it is. Because if you think about your specialty, your niche, who you want to work with, most of the words, right? Like couples therapy, marriage counseling, love, relationships, maybe it's divorce. So we've got those words, and then we're also, we could do some official keyword search, and Google has a keyword tool that's super simple to use, so you can do that. But also, if you just go into the search box for Google, and you start typing something in, how Google will like finish the phrase? Type something. Why does my husband? Da, 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 da. See what comes up. See like the top 6-8 things that come up. I'm thinking about divorce because, start seeing what comes up. So there's lots of little tricks and tools you can use to find out what people are searching for. And I know there's clinical terminology, but the truth is, for this strategy to really work, you want to use your clients' words and how they are searching for things. And they're not always using, even the best phrases. Sometimes you're using phrases that are very, even psychobabbly or funny or something like that. But you can certainly include that, and that's part of the keyword. But then you're educating and you're teaching and you're saying, but here's what this really is. You're saying toxic ex-spouse or whatever, but this is what toxic really means. And then you're explaining it with your expertise in a clinical way. And
That's
then
much more congruent to me. I'm so glad you added that piece, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to like just be this sort of poppy, but I love what you said. Keep going. I interrupted
yeah,
you.
no, that's okay. Yes. Interrupt whenever you feel like you need to, or you need clarification on something. So the content I focus on is also, I just want to distinguish trendy from evergreen content. So my content was definitely more, I'd say 90% evergreen, which meant these are topics that are timeless and always relevant, as opposed to a trendy topic or a hot topic, which like, let's say something was in the news lately, like some high profile celebrity couple getting divorced, and you wanted to write a little bit about some piece of that. Like you just heard something interesting, like let's say the one partner filed divorce and they gave some particular reason, and you're like, I'm going to write about the reason she said, and I'm going to just say, hey, this couple just divorced, and another celebrity marriage, and da 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 da. But then you're kind of using that as a springboard for something. But that content is more trendy. So in 5 years, that may not be so relevant. But the truth is, you can always go and update your articles. So you could later on, because I've done that once, a couple of times, where it was a more trendy topic because it was relevant in the news. But later on, after 2 years, 3 years, I just went back and I just changed it, and I just took out all the trendy stuff and I just turned it into like an evergreen article.
That's so
Yeah, it's kind of, there's always like little things you can do. So the other thing that's important is linking in your article to higher authority websites. So, like if you're writing about, if you're writing an article about EFT, and you may want to link at some point in the article to ISEFT, or you're linking to Science Daily, or or something that has this a higher ranked site. It could even be a news site, it could be CNN, it could be time.com, or something that is reputable and has authority. And so having those links to other sites can be really helpful. And then once you have a certain amount of articles, you start doing what's called internal linking in your website, which also just like power boosts your your stuff showing up in search also. So if I have an article about the top reasons for a divorce, and then I want to take one of those reasons for a divorce, and then I'm going to create another article that just focuses on that one reason, I might link a piece of one article to the next article. And then before long, you have almost like a network of links within your website, where all the content just gels together, and it also helps keep people like on your website, and reading, and again, looking at you like you're, you know what you're talking about, you're knowledgeable, you know what you're doing, all that sort of stuff. So.
Oh, I took so many notes. Okay. Okay, so just to kind of summarize, just to make sure that I maybe got it. There are keyword tools, which that's part of, you have a giveaway for us, and we're gonna giveaway. So there are specific tools that you can just kind of get the answers. But then there's also, I love your like trick. There's also ways, first of all, it's just like, your clients, maybe when they first come in, right? What are the words, or their intake? What are the words that they're using before they get therapized and they learn the attachment language? Like,
right.
What are those words? But also like, just what are people searching? And then just you kind of pretending to be a client and typing in some of the beginning phrases and just see what's auto-populating. Because it's popular, because these are the assumptive kind of phrases. That's so good. And then the differentiation between Evergreen and Trendy, super helpful. And also just kind of how you're making life a little easier for yourself when you're doing those little hacks, interlinking. Also maybe kind of recycling an old Trendy to make it an Evergreen.
Yeah.
So, and your strategy, if we're calling it a strategy, because, and I think it is really just consistency. Like you kind of learn the long game works, put the time in. And I really love what you're saying about the value of it being organic, that it never goes away. That's so much more reliable and cheaper, obviously, as long as you're willing to really put that time in. Do you do, how much do you, because I know, we're busy, and this does take a lot of work. How much, or what do you think is important, or how do you prioritize blogging, articles, videos, all of the things that you mentioned as, could fall under the content marketing? Is there something that is there a way that you make those choices?
Yeah, I think you won't be able to do everything. So don't try to do everything, but do what feels most comfortable and natural, right? So even though, I like writing, if that's not your thing, you may like, talking more off the cuff, doing videos. So you might just be writing up outlines for you to talk about in a 10 or 15-minute video, and then you're doing videos. But the truth is, you're going to also then want to host the videos somewhere. So you can do, if you put them on YouTube, great. But you're also going to want a description, right? Because remember, Google's reading everything. So your video might come up, and it might come up before somebody's article, even on the same topic. you know, like how to start a group practice or something. Like, let's say that's something you do, like, and you didn't want to necessarily write an article about it, but you created just a video based on an outline that you just, you know, talked about it, and then you put like the transcript somewhere, or you know, you're still using words that, you know, people are going to be searching for, like the clients you're wanting to attract are going to be searching for. So that all is, you know, is perfectly acceptable too. Or creating, you know, a podcast or doing something like that. And then also, you know, which I know we're going to talk about, promoting it, right? Because we don't want the articles, you don't just want them to sit there and kind of go stale, right? So you do want to promote them, you do want to put them on social media, but like that, you don't have to choose every single platform. Go where your audience is, right? My audience isn't really on like TikTok, you know, my audience is more on Facebook.
Okay.
But it's also probably my age, right? Like if I was 30, you know, I might be doing TikTok, you know, and that, so it's whatever you're comfortable with and what fits for you, and don't try to make something fit that doesn't. So I would say just choose what you feel is going to work for you and what you're most comfortable with. And even when I started even the blog writing, I kind of wrote about like almost anything that kind of came to mind before really funneling it into specifics of the kind of clients I wanted to attract. It's almost like I just wanted to get some practice, and I just wanted to figure out how to write these blogs, as opposed to like focusing too much on a million things at once, like getting all these things right. Because everything I'm saying, I'm sure people are already feeling a little overwhelmed just hearing all the things that I'm saying. And so just know that it's, you know, give yourself time to ramp up, to learn it. It's also a longer, stretched out kind of learning curve. And so your blogs, like there's some blogs I probably wrote in the beginning that I'm like embarrassed by, you know, because they're really not great, but you do get better, you do develop, you know, how to write it, the things that work. When you write a blog, it's like you want to break it down a little bit into little digestible chunks. Sometimes people scan and skim the blog, right? So so your blog is going to be structured a little different, like with the paragraphs are going to be shorter. You're going to use little bullet points or numbered lists or things like that. And that actually reminds me of another thing that sometimes this might be someone's thing, right? You never see these infographics. I'm not great at making those infographics, right? But infographics are content. And I've seen some amazing infographics, right? Where people are writing something, but it's in more of an art form. You know, it's in a flow chart. It's got little chunks of text, and it explains a concept like, you know, trauma or the tango, or, you know, something like that. So, so there's lots of different things that you can just sort of find what resonates for you and what you feel you're going to be good at and what you want to try.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. So it's, I mean, when you were talking, I was saying, okay, so the EFT equivalent of this is slice it thinner. What is the most realistic? What are you actually going to do? Right. So if you're worried about getting it right and you never post, then you need to make it a little easier on yourself and just don't worry about the words maybe at first, or don't worry about how niche.
Exactly.
Just like write something and put it out there. And then like let yourself, you know, get comfortable.
You'll refine it. You refine and refine and refine until you learn a lot of different things and you get better and better. But yes, I would say just put, you know, just put something out there. Is better than nothing, you know? So
yes. And then kind of build off of that. That's really exciting. And that's interesting. You know, the segue we were, you had kind of alluded to, but just to kind of go back to that, where to post. There's my dog.
Aw.
She wants to be part of this conversation.
Cute. That's cute.
I used to be able to shut that door and something broke on it, and now she can.
Yeah. So
what
where
you're saying is that really it's more important to know your audience And that's, and what are they on? And that's really where you should post. But yeah, I think just to kind of build off of that, and there's so many platforms, right? And we can't even keep up with all the platforms. I mean, it is overwhelming.
Mhm.
Because what you were saying is you don't want it to go stale. So how do you do that? Where do you post and
Right.
how often? And I think my kind of, if you can hold two questions at once, I think my follow-up question to that is, do you do all of this yourself or do you farm some of this out? Like,
Yeah, good question.
yeah,
Okay, so you definitely want to post on your own website.
right.
However, there are like one of the ways that I started out, and I learned how to do this with some coaching, and this is perfectly okay, for people to do. There was a website called yourtango.com, so you may have heard of it. And yourtango.com, the whole premise of it is having people in our types of professions, helping professions, healers, therapists, coaches, write content for their website. And that website also, they offered coaching. So they teach you how to do this. They teach it to you along the way, and they also help you with ideas. And if you want to, to focus it on your business, they can help you with that. So that's how I started. The website has certainly, it's gone through some different transitions over time. So I'm not sure if it's exactly the same as years ago. I think this is probably like 6 or 8 years ago when I started this. So it's a little different now, but they still do the same thing. And they publish your articles, and they will also help you a little bit with little things like the linking and with getting a great headline, something that's more attention grabbing. They look at the things that are also coming up that are a little trendier if you want to write more trendy content. So that's how I started out. And the thing with that website too is some of my articles would end up syndicated because you had the ability, or they had the ability to kind of like send your articles out for syndication. So it would end up getting picked up by a lot of other websites. So I don't know, Huffington Post or MSN, or so my articles ended up being like out there quite a bit. Some things have changed. So then algorithms change, Google changes certain things that they want to do. And so there's not as much opportunity for the syndications for whatever reason. And I think it has something to do with something called duplicate content. In other words, they want your content to be original and in one spot. And so they started to penalize some websites that were hosting duplicate content, and they really just wanted the content in one place. So anyway, so that may be TMI, but so that was really very, very helpful in helping me learn how to blog and what to blog about and all that. But I know that there's certainly other people out there that can help. So if you're not really sure how to do this and you feel like you need some type of coaching, there are coaches that help you with this piece so that you can get this strategy going and then just kind of do it on your own pretty much independently. So and then what was the other part of your question?
The other part
About being
farm this out.
farm it out. Okay, so good question. I never did. Okay, but again, that's just me. It doesn't mean you don't have to.
Oh.
The reason I didn't is because I wanted to write stuff that was at like the level of my education and skill set. I didn't feel like, and there's not a ton of people who can write at the level that you guys are, right? The therapists that are out there and watching, right? Your master's level, your doctoral level, your license, you have experiences, you have things that are very specialized. And I want people to capitalize on that specialization. So you have a way of educating the public about things that not everybody can. So there's not a lot of people that are going to be able to write like that. But that being said, there are companies now that have started to offer that as a service, that they're writing. And again, I don't know how good they are. I don't know how great the content is because I've never used them. But that's a possibility, and that might work also if you know, for some of the basics, right? Like if you're just wanting 6 or 8 blogs on your website and they're pretty basic about general stuff, couples therapy or whatever, then that is probably good for that. But I can't speak to the, you know, how like niche and how specialized that content is going to be. So that would be my concern.
Yeah.
But you know, people are welcome to try it because I know these places exist where they will write it for you and they will optimize it with the keyword. They'll do all of that. And that's okay. If that's what someone chooses to do, that's perfectly fine. There is another thing that obviously just came along that I am just starting to use and that I'm learning, which is the AI stuff, the Chat GPT. And here's what I would say about that.
I like had a question in my mind. Do I even bring this up? I'm so glad. Yeah.
So here's what I can tell you so far, and I've got very limited knowledge. But what I would say is I would absolutely use it as a tool to help you. So you can put things into Chat GPT like to ask Chat GPT for just an outline, and then you write the article, or you can ask for the full article be written. However, you are going to want to make sure, because as we know, we're learning about problems with that, right? Articles that are cited that don't exist, research that doesn't exist, misinformation. You must fact check the article. You must put it through, there's programs for plagiarism. You must put it through a program to make sure that it's not plagiarized. And you gotta also, most importantly, it has to be in your voice, your style. You cannot just take an article written by ChatGPT and plop it on your website. Terrible idea. You have to take it through sort of all those channels, but it could definitely save you a ton of time.
Yeah.
But just make sure when I say your voice, I mean, like, are you, is your voice a serious voice? Is your voice more of like a jokey, lighthearted thing? If you're from the South and you say y'all, your article has to say y'all. It can't say you all. I might use you all, but use what is you, like your voice and who you are has to shine through that article. So, so I would say it can be useful, and I'm starting to learn a little bit about it. And maybe later on, when I learn more, we can also have another interview about it, because it's really saving people a lot of time. You can even ask it to structure like an e-course on a certain topic. Like it's amazing what it can do. So I think it can be good. Just I would use it carefully.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And there's all these ethical conversations, about this. And I'm really appreciate your sort of caution and the very specific things that you need to do to do this in a way that feels ethical, and also just actually that's going to work, right? Because if you don't have your voice, then it's going to come through, right? So a reader is going to feel that like this is stale, or this is not, just not even gonna, a reader's just not going to really stick with it. So it needs to be like having a conversation with you. How would that feel? And that, chat, is it
Chat GPT.
That can never
It's not going to ever, right, like capture the essence of you and your style and your voice. So you're always going to want to, and if you even hire, I mean, there's freelance writers you can hire too, and some, that maybe even higher level that can kind of get to some of that stuff that requires like a master's degree or a doctoral degree. So they're out there, and I would say if that is easier for you. Again, to me, it's still a cost saver, because if you're paying someone a couple $100 for the content, and then you put it on your site and you kind of do what you need to do to it, that again is going to stay forever, and you paid that one-time fee. You're not paying a couple $100 a month, for that. So
Yeah.
the content is always probably going to be better than paid ads, in my opinion. So
No,
even if
that
it's
was,
value.
I had that running in the background when we were talking about I mean, we weren't talking about that, but I was thinking about the cost of a content writer.
Mhm,
Someone
mhm.
approached me recently and she was super expensive, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because it was almost expensive as doing Google ads.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, ideally do it yourself, but if you're just not a writer, you don't
Yeah.
have time, like this is a very viable option. And
Yes. And there's people out there that this is what they do for a living. They are content writers, and they have their niches, right? Like I'm sure there's some out there that their niche is mental health, just like there's some who are like car dealership, content writers. So there's content focuses for every single business industry. So
yeah,
you want to find someone who really knows what they're doing. And it may make more sense when you do the math. If you are paying for ads, and then you look at what the content writer is proposing and what they're charging, it may make sense.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's just kind of look at it next to each other and decide. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
So this next question, I'm going to pivot just a little bit,
Sure.
and this is something I'm personally very interested in. So, because I am a writer, and I love to write. I mean, it's actually something that is sort of a therapeutic outlet for me personally. So all
Yeah.
of this is super exciting to me, and I'm very sensitive I know there's some of you listening that are like, I hate writing. That is like such a chore.
Mhm.
So maybe this is not going to land as well, but
Okay.
you have figured out how to get connected with really huge media outlets. And I want to know how you did that. I mean, you mentioned
Wow.
yourtango.com way back, and I don't know if that was it. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
but how do you pitch an article?
Yeah, yeah.
What?
Great question. So, what will also end up happening is journalists will find you online, and they will start to reach out to you, especially if it's some topic that they are writing on. So
Okay.
that is one way that the content marketing also helps you and kind of gives back in that way.
Hmm.
The other way that I've found a lot of opportunities to do media contributions is through something called HARO, HARO, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. And I know you'll share, the link. Um, what that is it's an email that comes like 3 times a day with just a long list of reporters looking for media contributions from experts. You have to comb through it because they're looking for all sorts of experts for all sorts of industries and businesses, but very, very frequently they're looking for a relationship expert, marriage expert, divorce person, whatever, something like that. So the thing is, there is also a strategy for responding, which I can just kind of talk about very, very quickly because it could be like a whole thing too. So you have to be super, super timely. Journalists are on deadlines, so they usually will put the deadline in there, but honestly, the deadline is probably 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, so when you
Wow.
see that thing, someone looking at, I need an expert on relationships for thus and such of a topic, and that is, let's say, your thing. So again, you're going to want to look for things that you want to attract, right? I may not want to do something about stress management or something like that. Could I? Yes, but I'm not choosing to do that. I'm focusing on, relationship related media that I can, contribute to. So if you see that, you also have to put your pitch in the email, and how you want to be cited. You don't have to put a whole lot about why you're an expert. You just say, you just say you are, which I know sounds kind of silly, but you just say, I've got this degree and I'm licensed here, I'm in Florida or wherever you are, and that's it. It's like 1 or 2 sentences, that's it. That's all you have to put. The bulk of it is your pitch, and you answer their question in the pitch, and you do exactly what they're asking. If they say like, I want to know the number one reason, the number one thing that, because I'm writing an article about what husbands complain about their wives about, or something like that. Okay, so you have to answer that, and you have to write them a little paragraph answering their question. And so that's time, right? That's energy. And truth is, of all the pitches you write, like if I wrote 10 pitches to journalists, 5 or 6 are going to go through. So there's like a 50% failure rate. Your pitch just isn't going to be taken for whatever reason. You don't even know why. They don't, and sometimes they take your pitch and you don't even know they did. And then the article shows up later. You're like, oh, wow, excuse me, So it's a little bit of weirdness around that. But it's been super, super helpful. And you just have to, again, like if the timing works, and you happen to open the Haro email and you can respond, you do it and you do it right. And that's it. And you will start to get some media.
This feels like a fun game to me. Like I want to play it. Like, let's go.
It does become, it does start to feel like a competition. You're like, I'm getting this pitch, Sometimes the outlets are anonymous too, which is interesting, but sometimes they're huge. I mean, some of these anonymous outlets have been like New York Times and stuff. Like you just don't know. So you have to take it. Yeah, you have to take a chance.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's good to know, because it could also be something that you maybe don't want to be represented by, right? It's like, I don't like love this, media outlet, but then it's like, but what if
right. And another little trick that I've used too is that if I wrote an article about that topic already, I'm taking just a piece of my article, I'm shifting it up a little bit, taking like a paragraph and maybe changing it up a bit, then I'm just pitching that.
Right.
I wrote it, it's my original content. I'm not stealing from anybody or plagiarizing. And so that has, helped me also kind of get these pitches out quickly. If I already have something that I've already written about it, just makes it a little bit easier. So.
And so Marni, when am I kind of imagining this correctly, in that when these journalists are asking for this, it's within their whatever they're writing, so they're really looking for like almost like a quote or a paragraph. You're not pitching a whole article, you're just answering the question and they're quoting you, which then is like huge.
Yes, they want the exact quote, and they don't want to waste time going, I don't understand what you meant by that. But it's not going to be a back and forth email. They want it now, and they want a perfect quote that fits well with their article and is going to make their article look good. That's all they're interested in.
And so then when that happens, you get published or you get mentioned in a
yes.
Now, and this is maybe what I see on your website.
And you can backlink that.
Yes.
You can backlink to that too. On your you can list, certainly, like I list my media contributions, but if I have an article that's relevant, that I already wrote a blog and it's relevant to that topic, I might just write a little thing in there saying, also check out this article in, on Huffington Post or whatever it is. And so now I'm linking to another high authority website too. And so it all works synergistically.
Right.
And one more thing before I forget, because this is super important. On all of these blogs, on things that you do, whether it's posting a video or whatever it is, you're going to want something called a CTA, which is a call to action, which basically means like a couple of lines that, like at the bottom of every one of my blogs, I say something like, if you're struggling in your relationship, feel free to reach out. I'm a therapist in South Florida. Feel free to reach out to me, and I link to my contact page. So the CTA is just sort of telling the reader what to do next. They're reading your article. Let's say they're like, oh, wow, I really like that, and I'm struggling with that. And you know, they can reach out to you, that's even better. And so you're kind of just giving them that little piece, like, here's what you do now. Now that you read that, you know, reach out to me. You know, and I know it's certainly dependent on, you know, where you're located. You know, certainly you know, we get sometimes people reaching out, I'm like, I can't work with you, you're, you know, in a different state that I'm not licensed in or something like that. But it's worked out great for, like, if you offer intensives where people can fly to see you, or you sell an e-course, because it doesn't matter where those people are.
Right.
So again, if you're driving those people to you, it could be a service, it could be an offering, it could be a product, it could be a book, it could be something that eventually, you know, it's meaningful to have those people coming to you. And of course, there's plenty of people that come to you that are in your state, right? And now with telehealth, I mean, we're always seeing people all over the state. So definitely gave that a boost. So.
And are you, do you have a CTA or a call to action in every single thing that you write? Yeah, okay. And then
Every time.
it's really to not be tentative, to be very specific and kind of bold in your call to action. Not like, if you maybe want, then think about, just here's what you need to do next.
Yes.
And how to do it. Yeah.
Right. Either reach out for a service or something that you're promoting. Like if you wrote an article about betrayal trauma and it's geared towards the reader, and the reader is the hurt partner, at your call to action might be, check out my e-course specifically for the hurt partner on betrayal trauma. That's your CTA. And it takes them right over, and they just read this amazing article you wrote, and they're gonna be like, Kelly knows what she's talking about. I'm buying that. That's what you want. Again, the profit is the end result. So
yes. That's the first thing in the definition. And like, so here, let's just, you and I riff off of this, because I just started this. Okay. I literally just posted my first, I think maybe it was like, I was getting ready to meet with you. I was like, I just need to do the thing that Marni's going to tell me to do. So I wrote the blog article about betrayal trauma, and I was so hesitant to give a call to action, because I feel like I'm coming on so strong. Surely they already know about my e-course, you know, it's all over my website. Like, now I'm going to say, I mean, it was just ridiculously hard for me. I did it, but can you speak to that? Like, how did you get over that hurdle?
You're leaving money on the table, as they say, Kelly. I
know.
You know, the call to action is yeah, 100% a necessity, and almost expected. People want direction, and they want guidance, and they want to know what to do next. So it's perfectly acceptable, and it's done in a way that I feel like, you know, it can be done in a certainly a softer way. Like, sometimes I'm writing something like, hey, if you liked this article, learn more. I have the, you know, check out my, you know, you're writing it, you know, you can write it a little more soft and playful, but yeah, but absolutely. And that's only 1 or 2 sentences also. And you put it, I actually, like, the article will end, I skip a line or two, then I bold my call to action, and I hyperlink where I want them to go with what I want them to do.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Therapists have a really hard time. They're like allergic to selling, right?
Yeah, I feel even a little icky. Yeah, even saying like the word profit. Yes, you're right.
Right. But we really do have to.
The truth is, you need to earn a living, and you should be earning a living, and you are also helping people. It's like both, and you are helping people, but yes, you should be earning a living off of what you're doing. So yeah, I think it is harder for us to be salesy, but you know, also think about it. If you wrote an article, that content is free. You've given them something of value. So you're not starting off the bat saying, it's not your first sentence, buy my e-course, this e-course is great for you. Like, that's not your first sentence. It's your last one after you've already given them something of value. Content is valuable. Them learning something from you is valuable. So yeah, so now you're saying, and I have this little request. Would you go check out
Right.
of course.
Right. No,
Oh,
I love everything you're saying. And it's just good to have another, um, I really respect you just as a therapist, right? And so just to have another EFTer kind of speak in this confident way about, the value that we're giving and
yes,
how kind of bold we can be and yes, like go after it.
yes.
Get play the pitch game with the reporters and all of this is just
Mm-hmm.
like exciting. One more thing before we have to wrap, and I just want to let everyone know that's listening, and then those of you that are here live, I know you got questions that we really didn't have time to answer, but Marni is giving away a therapist guide to content marketing and SEO. And I've already took a look at it and I was sort of like just ingesting it last night. It's excellent. It's very thorough. So she is giving us a lot, but I also know, Marni, that you're so smart because now you're capturing people
Guess what? Yeah, I'm taking your email in, right. That's what I want in order to give you the free gift. Again, the free gift is content. I have like on my website, just another quick little thing, like I have a lead magnet, which means that's how I'm also capturing email addresses of clients. Like I have an ebook about getting help for, doing couples therapy, like how to get help for your relationship. And so that was a content piece, but honestly, again, just to make it more simple, I just took like a few of my blogs that were relevant and I just packed it into a little ebook. People could like, kind of sift around on my website to find those articles, but I just packaged it as an ebook for people. And so that's another way to capture them. But yes, so you're going to want these blogs to be put out. You want to, to capture email addresses for newsletters and to be able to put your, send people the articles you're writing and things like that. Again, this all kind of works all together.
Well, and everybody that's listening and those of you that are here, I also get Marni's newsletter and it is wonderful. And so this is like huge, huge value. Okay, one last thing. I know we have a minute left.
Sure.
I just know that there are people that are listening that are going to be super intimidated by this. And let's just talk to them, right? I don't feel like I'm a great writer. Yes, I want to boost my SEO. Yes, I want to, even like become known as the expert in XYZ because I am. What would you say to those people?
It's not as hard as you think it is. And I have a hard time believing that if you went to graduate school, which you did, that you don't know how to write because you wrote a lot. So if you could write a paper for a professor, you can write, you have the skill. So I would say people have it probably more than they realize it. Otherwise do, the other side of it, like we're suggesting, you can hire someone to help you and to do it for you. You can do that. Just as long as you do it in the way that I described, where you're looking at it, you're reading it over, you're editing it, you're putting your voice in it. But so that's what I would say. But I think people are probably better able to do it than they think. So
I love what you're saying. You're so right. Of course. Of course. You can write. It's probably more about maybe more of an emotional
confidence and yeah.
Yeah, just kind of like, I don't want to put myself out there as a writer. But yes, I agree. And what you said about our level of expertise that is so special and important.
Yes.
That is that's a voice that we need to hear. If you want to know more about Marni, go to thetalkingsolution.com. She's wonderful. Everything she puts out is wonderful. I feel really honored that you agreed to be with us today. And yeah, thanks so much, Marni.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, everyone. See you next time.